Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and this lesson slash semi-self-examination, I want to talk about making content at scale. And what that means is producing material in large quantities across various platforms. So let me kind of highlight my journey and whatnot and to help illustrate this. So for a long time, I used to look at social media as a negative thing, that people were just posting selfies and selfish things. But I've definitely shifted my mentality and now realize like social media is just a tool and it's a neutral platform and it is what you make it. You consume what you want to consume. So if you don't want to, see selfies and so forth, don't follow those accounts. There's plenty of accounts out there that teach wonderful things, that are about science, that are about movie making, that are about health and wellness and just amazing spiritual quotes, whatever the case may be. Whatever your jam is, it's out there. You just have to find it and just follow those instead of the stuff that you don't want to follow, right? And that certainly helped me in my life. Now, the second aspect of it is, in terms of social media, is you choose what you want to put out there, right? And even though, I could be posting selfies and things like that, but that's not what I want to be doing. That's not what I do. I want to put out the type of content that I like to consume, and I feel like, the stuff that I'm making, I try to make sure that has benefit for you as an audience member. That's my goal. And one of the things I'm a big believer in is that we are meant to share ideas. I'm a very open source kind of guy. I used to have a term for it called open source knowledge. I think, when we all have knowledge, we all become better. Or the quality of life just increases, both from a health perspective, happiness perspective, all these things, right? And I've been blessed enough in my life where people have put out amazing information for free online, whether through YouTube tutorials or blogs, whatever the case may be. And so I'm trying to kind of add whatever I can to that perhaps might not be out there, or say it in a different way than perhaps being said, or combine two ideas into a new idea. So that's the type of stuff that I put out. Now, when I originally sort of started this type of journey, I was doing it like once a week through my weekly podcast. And what's kind of been cool is, I used to be recommended Gary Vee a lot, and then I started watching his content, and he's a big advocate of this idea of making content at scale. And then that was, I looked at it, I was like, that's all great, but it's very intimidating to me because I was like, his idea is like put out 64 pieces of content a day. I'm like, what the fuck? How am I going to do that? Well, here's what's kind of interesting. Talk about a guy who puts shit out there for free. He has a content model, and you can literally type in Gary Vee content model, and it's like a very, I think it's like 60 pages at least of how he turns, how his content funnel, as he calls it. And what he does essentially is, let's say he takes a keynote speech, or he does a keynote speech that gets taped, and he puts that out as like a full thing. But then off of that, he chunks it up into various smaller videos and so forth, memes, still images and so forth, that he can recycle and gets a lot of content out of. So, he's essentially using an hour worth of recording to create, even maybe 100, if not more, pieces of individual content as well. So that's part of the trick, and a really cool way to do it. The other thing, like in the past, 2 months, I believe, whatever the case may be, he put out a deck that's literally like 270 pages on how he makes 64 pieces of content. So if you type in Gary Vee 64 pieces of content, it will take you to essentially an instructional manual of how to put out 64 pieces of content. And upon seeing this, I don't know, everything just clicked for me. And I was like, okay, why don't I try this? And since just a couple days before the new year of 2020, I started making content at scale. And it's actually, once you kind of really sit down with it, it's actually not as hard as you would imagine. I bulk the lessons, the lesson that you're seeing, I taped alongside 6 other lessons. I mapped out my the various lessons that I wanted to teach throughout the week, both in video form, the stuff that I wanted to tweet, the stuff that I wanted to post on Instagram, the stuff that I wanted to post on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, my website, and so forth. Like, all of this stuff gets sort of mapped out, and then essentially, it gets scheduled and so forth, and that way, it seems like I'm active throughout the week, but I don't have to be fully active. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't allow for spontaneity. That doesn't mean I'm not on these platforms throughout the week checking and interacting with people, but the bulk of the work, is compressed into a couple of hours, and then I essentially kind of get to engage with you as an audience member, right? That's kind of the cool part. So it's a lot easier than you might imagine, and I would encourage you, like, try it. Have a content day, so that way you tape all the stuff that you need and then put it out there. And it doesn't have to be on video. I like video, but you can just do it purely as audio and so forth. Like, really check out his deck, Gary Vee, 64 pieces of content, and that'll teach you everything you need to know about creating content and scale and just kind of doing it. So hopefully this gets you started. That is the intent of all of this. So get out there and make some good content. And also, I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe or follow me on social media at Svitek. That way you get all the various stuff that I'm teaching, that I'm talking about, right when it drops. I would appreciate that, and hopefully you do too. Anyway, I hope to see you next time.